So, fellas, this one goes out to you. We've all seen the videos. We've all looked on in envy as fucking studs the world over, up to their knees in women and money and self-confidence, coming down to us mortals to share their secrets, their tips, their tricks, their magic sauce.
Approach anxiety doesn't exist. You're just a little bitch.
That girl I saw in the waiting room today, her nature is not studying. You have a girl in her fertile prime, the most fertile that she's gonna be in her life, trying to study. And I would respect her more if she came in that waiting room with 10 babies.
These gods among men with their master classes and manifestos of masculinity have touched men of all classes and cultures. Spiritually, not in a gay way. Men like vaginas, giving them the tools they need to bed any women they desire. Well, almost all men. 'Cause what about us? Shit. But yeah, what about us? The sensitive old souls who went to only a few school dances, if any school dances at all. Us scrawny folks who only lift 5s. When they do lift. Because, real talk, you guys making these videos, while they're clearly very effective and very informative, you gotta realize, the way you package it, the way you expect us to conduct ourselves, it's not gonna work for everyone. The muscles, the muscle cars, the vests, the ties, the suits, it's just a little, it's a little too corporate, you know, the way you just kind of like swagger around, cranking the alpha go-getter levels up to about 11 out of 10. The clothes, the cars, the gape mouths, the vacant eyes, the fact that she's never gonna stay for you as a person. That's gonna work for a lot of people. But you gotta realize for the rest of us, those of us with the physique of a adolescent orangutan and whose spirit animal has been described as a little furry thing that thinks it's a badass, that's clearly a social and aesthetic level that we simply would never achieve with our own personalities and work ethics. So you're gonna have to take those same philosophies, that same spirit, and repackage it in a way that's gonna work for us. So for all you beta males out there, that's exactly what I'm here to do. So get a pen, get a scratch pad, sit back and take notes. Because if you stick to these guidelines that I'm about to lay out for you beta folk, I guarantee it, within a matter of weeks, you're gonna be swimming in birth. Now, old school traditional pussy magnet types will focus mostly on their body, their muscles. They'll spend hours and hours at the gym making sure they have the best physique possible. Now, as betas, our most important muscle is in here. So we gotta spend as much time as they do at the gym making sure that this here is in tip-top shape. I'm in no way suggesting that you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on like courses of any kind to expand your horizons intellectually. Because once you start going down that hill, you start looking like a fucking nerd. What I'm suggesting is you take the brain equivalent of a hard-boiled egg, get the necessary nutrients and proteins. No need to turn into an egghead yourself by showing how big your words are. Yeah, so like see these lines going up and down the video? A fucking nerd would have been like, oh, you shouldn't shoot your shit like this. You should just make sure that it's all balanced. You don't use the kind of light that's gonna have a different refresh rate or whatever the fuck when it goes into the camera's lens. I ain't a fucking dweeb. I ain't a fucking Melvin. So as betas, we gotta take note of this part of the spectrum and just go out of our way to get onto the polar opposite side. Instead of bulky and manly and 1980s movie action like, you gotta make yourself look like a goddamn baby. Look at that. Silky smooth like a fetus's ass cheeks. What the fuck? I mean, let's be realistic here. Stubble, even though it's manly in that classical sense, you get a lady rubbing up and down on that stuff long enough, they're gonna start getting like rashes. It's gonna irritate their fragile, sensitive skin. You don't want to do that. You want to be a pillow of skin that she can nestle her face on for hours on end without having to worry about that kind of shit. I mean, it's like they always say. The more you look like you came out of a pussy yesterday, the more likely you are to get into one tonight. So along with the silky smooth face, you're also gonna want to accentuate your other more effeminate qualities. I'm not saying dress up and drag or nothing. I'm not saying wear makeup. Besides the obvious, like, facial blemish cover-up if you care about your face that much, which I particularly don't. I occasionally look like a connect the dots book up in here. But if you want to do shit with your hair, I say go for it. Me, I prefer to grow it out This is probably the longest it's ever been, which raises the eyebrows of some people, while others say, hey, you're looking like a young 70s rock star, and that's my jam. Go back to the past. Learn why pop culture icons were icons in the first place. Study the fuck out of their facial expressions. Look at the movements that they use whenever they're walking around on stage or in a movie or even down the street. Concentrate their essence into a unique blend that your body type, that your own physical persona can exploit. Any 70s hard rock or prog connoisseur never had that shortcut hair. I'm talking the Daltrys, I'm talking the Barretts, I'm talking the Pages. Lumber around like your spine's been fucked up by playing electric guitar for hours on end, night after night after night. Turn yourself into that poet that's doped up on every drug that man has ever created, and find their shtick and get a surface level understanding for how it worked. In regards to all the fuckers I just listed off, obviously, you're gonna want one of these guys. Actually, this one's a girl, because she's an instrument of my expression. You want to butter those ladies up, but not so much that they start thinking they're on your level or anything, you know? It's all about dominance. It's nature, after all. If you have the time, learn a couple chords on guitar. Okay, this part, it's gonna sound like a meme, but it's not a meme. One really cool part about playing guitar. Even if you don't get that good at it, you just play it often. The DNA in your fingertips get a little kiss of that 9-to-5 construction worker aesthetic. Calluses. You can get calluses just by playing it. Just play it enough. Learn 4 notes and just like swap through them as fast as you can. Grate your fingers like a fucking block of cheese for hours a day. It's gonna hurt like shit, but it's totally worth it because I gotta tell you, there's nothing like just draping one of these guys down her spine. If it were a regular finger, it's like, oh, you're rubbing a moist anchovy down my skin. I'm not calling you back, but hit it with one of these. It's like, oh, wow, this man works. This dainty little amoeba of a human being is bestowing a sensation along my back, along my shoulder, along my arms. This is how it works, fellas. Believe me. Just play guitar. Anyway. Shit. I need... Fuck. There's a lady who's sure that look... But Dylan, I can't get nearly as good as the legendary Jimmy Page on my axe, and neither can you. How are we gonna make this work if we can't at least make it look like we're talented artistically, musically, in that kind of sense? That's why you come up with a backup plan. If those guys end up being way out of your league, you just become a beatnik. A whole generation of folk singers who convinced the world that they were next level gods by sounding just good enough that everyone thought to themselves while they were listening to their music, hey, that could be me up there. That's a voice coming from you and me in a coat I borrowed from James Dean. And sure, even if you're not shredding like Hendrix, you just gotta learn a couple of chords. That's all it really takes at the end of the day. How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? How many weeds must a white girl smoke before she can sleep with a man? How many times must those guns go off before they're no longer allowed to be fired at other people with guns? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. But suppose you go too far down that rabbit hole, and even though you get good enough at the instrument, you start realizing, hey, I'm no better than those frickin' alpha pieces of shit who just flaunt their cars. I'm just flaunting my guitar. This is all a existential placeholder for true happiness. You start committing to the bit a little too much, and before you know it, the only other option is to resort to the alternative. That's what history's always shown us, right? There's only one way to carry on. A sense of humor. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to go full Jim Morrison. All you gotta do is realize, hey, maybe that style's not for you. Maybe you're not meant to be a throwback archetype for the poets of the 60s and 70s. Maybe you want to be a little cleaner, a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more charming. funny, intellectual, you know? Or, you know, you always got percussion. It's like the easiest shit to do in the world, right? John Bonham and Keith Moon, they were cool, but like, how hard could it be to just hit shit? Read about comedians, steal jokes, just look at a bunch of funny people and imitate every little nuance that they got going on, every little thing that the opposite sex could find charming and potentially indicative of having a wit and intellect that's worth mating with, even if it's not. Remember, Wikipedia, get a 101 on everything. Goodbye, birthdays of Mom and Grandma. I'm gonna need room for the year that Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction came out. Wow, you know so much about what you're passionate about. Yeah, I know, baby. My whites are even purple so I don't get too caught up in that old school macho bullshit. I dare even call these motherfuckers mauve. Roy G. Biv? Pff, kid stuff. There's multitudes of shades and hues between each letter. I'm not even sure what kind of accent I'm doing right now. All I know is that it's making you a little damper the lower my voice gets. See? Humor. It's all about that personality. It's humor, it's insight, it's perspective, it's... Fine, I'll do it. Knowledge. I feel like I'm entitled to one meme for this. Spend $90 on a fucking comedy masterclass. Like, school to be funny? School to write your own shit? Like, what? That's a steal. Don't judge me on buying that. It's actually helping me out a lot as a person. Be like Larry David. Be like Jerry Seinfeld. Be like Woody Allen. Be like Ricky Gervais. Be like the total epitome of unbangable and somehow find a way to trick these hoes into sleeping with you. It can be done. That can be you. It can be us. Not at like the same time, because no gay shit. Vaginas. These are two fun angles you can take as a beta. The artist, the poet, the intellectual. But now let's fast forward to a more modern take on it. A lot of TV shows and websites have started to fetishize a new kind of personality, a new archetype for the male form to take on and maximize their chick magnitude. Over the course of the past decade, it has grown into a force that has overtaken sites like Tumblr and Imgur. I'm talking, of course, about the recluse, the slender tragic hero, the autistic savant. Now, a lot of these guys, a lot of whom are British, even the ones that play American characters, I'm not really too sure what that's about. They go out of their way to be the most socially awkward human beings on the planet, the kind of people who would have no chance of sticking their wick in anything, and yet millions and millions and millions of female eyes just glue. Now, I happen to be blessed with a frame that more or less lines up with this archetype. So even if some of you guys at home can't necessarily line up completely with this next persona to embody, I can at the very least show you a handful of tricks to get as close as you can. Notice this bracelet. It's very crude, very basic, but there's a bit of mystery to it. Why would anyone wear this? Unless it was something of sentimental value. You got a watch, cheap but functional. This is a Casio. Wear it this way. Apparently dudes in the military wear it this way in order to look at it in more intense scenarios than I feel like the average pencil pusher or briefcase toter would in their day-to-day routine. Wear tight, form-fitting, basic shirts. Just Zuckerberg the fuck out of your wardrobe. Show that you're a guy with priorities who can't focus too much on the little things, like whether I wear plaid or a button-up. Nah, eye on the prize. Plain tees. And if it's a little nippy out, at the very most, you put on a hoodie. No designer name needed. Roll that shit up. Really, this is a multi-seasonal getup. It would work in any situation. Now, if you really are trying to psychologically, sociologically get across that you're working on some next level shit, some really important business, hack it into the mainframe of the world, sticking it to the man in ways that they'll never detect. You want to load up your shit with electro and European synth pop, arpeggiate the hell out of your day, and just constantly look like you're in your own cyberpunk montage. Sit around on buses and park benches and trains looking like you're just chewing on the next step in your revolution. You want to give your hand something to do, you can rock this guy back and forth. You can even steal a page out of the McConaughey handbook, play with those guitar calluses. I know Jim Carrey theorized in his bit on SNL that it was a booger or a tiny tennis ball. But no, having done this myself throughout the day a couple of times, it's a callus, because that's a dude who works, and so are you. Guitars, keyboards, takes a toll on your fingertips. Or, for maximum contemporary edge, don't get lazy with it though. You only get one of those long spins if you're on the cusp of having an epiphany. You get one of those slow zooms into the patterns that get picked up by the lights cascading through the spin. At every other point, you're constantly playing with it. You're catching it mid-spin. It's gotta be stimulating, it's gotta occupy your appendages. It's actually pretty likely she won't even want to approach you. You're gonna be that mysterious guy who's got a lot on his mind, and she doesn't want to break that stream. And yet at the same time, she totally wants to break that stream. And then, if you're a guy who's got the hair for it and wants to go all the way with the illusion, take your friend Mr. Sentimental Token right here. Doesn't gotta look good. In fact, the scrappier it looks, the better off you're gonna be. And then my more committed viewers saw this shit coming. Pop those suckers on and bam. Those legal-aged millennial girls will have no idea what hit them. Pick your favorite, gentlemen. There's plenty of options. In fact, let's build up a little community here. If you come up with something better, leave it in the comments. Let me know what your secret sauce is. But no, guys, this is really it. If you can't get ripped, you can't get rich. Hey, there's plenty of other ways to make them like putty in your hands. Come up with other cute little quirks that make it seem like not all the pieces are there in that adorable little head of yours. But Dylan, this is a little fucked up. Aren't you technically trivializing like social disabilities and other mental illnesses that would cause people to act in this very strange and peculiar way? Well, that's a point worth bringing up if you're a fucking plebeian who doesn't want to get his dick wet. Let me make something absolutely clear. It is not my job to make you a more socially aware person. It is not my job to increase your sensitivity to the adversity of those around you. My job, gentlemen, is to get you laid. And goddammit, that is exactly what I'm gonna do.
Seducers have a warrior's outlook on life. They see each person as a kind of walled castle to which they are laying siege. Seduction is a process of penetration. Initially penetrating the target's mind, their first point of defense. Once seducers have penetrated the mind, making the target fantasize about them, it is easy to lower resistance and create physical surrender.